Hi, I'm Marty. I flew these with these. I fly these with them. Got a wife, kids, play golf, band, happy life, and then Corona. It's a drag, but you're not alone. Have a laugh with me on
Possum. I don't know if we're going to get our walk in this morning.
half an hour periods of gusts up to 60 kilometres an hour with moderate rain and 13 degrees. Sounds like a better day to stay in bed.
Just a wet, cold, windy day. Might be just a good day for sleeping in. Got my little workshop out the back with my little glory wall, pictures of all my flying days. But last night, a lot of them came off the wall, a lot of smashed glass. Yeah, wasn't good. Marty Does Rona viewers. It's the 6th of May. Really windy, cold, blowy day over here. Not a nice day to be outside, so I think I'm going to turn on the fire and curl up with a good book. Perfect day to receive some of the news that our Chief Executive's just released. He's released it to us and also the Australian Stock Exchange. Pretty sobering in a lot of ways. I'll just go through the details quickly. Mr. Joyce said that the stand downs are going to be extended and the cancellation of flying is going to be extended. For domestic, that's at least until the end of June. So we're only at the start of May, so it's May, June, so that's at least 2 months for domestic. And then for international, he said through to July and beyond. So clearly that's just due to zero demand. He said at the moment there's 5% of the pre-COVID flying being done domestically, 5%, and internationally it's almost 0, 1%. So if you haven't got flying to be done, you can't run an airline. So the only parts of the company that are still ticking away flying wise are QantasLink's doing some resource mining flights, no doubt mainly here in the West, and a bit of freight work. Oh, where were we? My wife just walked in the middle of the recording session, so had to make her a cup of tea. Qantas loyalty program's still going, so that's the, 1 in every 2 Australians has a Qantas credit card with a little Qantas symbol on it. The webinar today said that leave without pay would be very favourably looked upon, so if you read between the lines there, might go on for a bit longer than we're expecting. But if you're going to be in any airline during this, where the airline to be in, the Chief Executive described how all the steps have put us in a pretty good financial situation, and he said to the Australian Stock Exchange that the company can keep going at present circumstances through to December 21, burning about $40 million a week right now while it's sitting at idle. So all pretty sobering. I don't know, where does that leave us? The first thing straight off the top of my head, don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. That's just my number one message. We are not in dire circumstances. Your individual circumstances may be dire. If they are, there's sources for help. Don't lose hope. So, all that's pretty sobering news. I reckon right now we're at that point, if we're on a flight, where we've had the master warnings lit up in our faces. We've had that initial shock. We've cancelled the master warning. We've looked at each other. In any aircraft emergency, the very first thing we do is nominate who's flying the aircraft and making sure he just does that, fly the aircraft. And then that leaves the other guy to manage it. In my case, my wife's captain of the ship. She's running the show. I'm helping where I can. The guy next to you's gone, mate, a virus has spread around the entire planet. It stopped life as we know it.
COVID-19. Identify the problem. For our company, all flying, domestic and international, has stopped. Therefore, our form of regular income has stopped. Confirm that that's the case? Well, the Chief Executive Officer just told us it was the case. Australian Stock Exchange has received that news. Chief Pilot saying the same thing. Yep, there'll be no flying domestically until July by the sound of it, and longer than that internationally. It's in black and white now. Commence. Then the next thing would be, well, commence the recalls or memory items. So in this case, the initial things that you'd have to take care of straight away: lost your regular form of income, so have you got a roof over your head, and do you know where your next meal is coming from? Is your physical state of being okay, and is your mental state of being okay? For me, that'd be the main things that I'd have to deal with straight away, for me and my family. After that, I'm going to sit on my hands. Very rarely in flying, as we know, do we need to do something straight away. Same here. As long as those initial things are taken care of, you can sit there, take stock, and have a real think about where the future is going to take us. I reckon about now it's time to implement our problem-solving model. In Qantas, we use grade, gather, review, analyse, decide, implement and evaluate. I find that a little bit cumbersome. I use SADE, which is the old Ansett model: share, analyse, decide, implement and evaluate. Both of them arrive at the same place. And today I reckon it might be a little useful just to look at those models and see where they end us up with this news that we've received today. Okay, so the first step is to share all the things we know. The things we're trying to achieve is to keep the roof over our heads, the family unit healthy and happy, and to keep food on the table. The variables or the levers we're able to pull are money in, money out, and how much time this is going to last. So, money in, our normal income has stopped. We still have leave, or at least some of us do. All of us can apply for the JobKeeper, and all of us can try to get a second job to bring some more money in. Money out, break it into necessities, what you need, and luxuries, what you normally would spend extra to the necessities. Finally, time, short haul. I'm working in a time frame of 3 months without working, and for long haul, it could be a lot longer than that. Probably smartest to plan for the worst and hope for the best. So analyse. Let's look at all the options and what's the smartest course of action. Budget. Do we keep the luxuries or do we offload them? Mortgage. Do I keep paying it or do I pause it? JobKeeper. Do I go for it? Leave. Do I burn it now or hold on for the future? Second job. Is that an option or should I hold off? Family. Should I ask them for help? And assets. Could I downsize or offload things that I don't need? Should I sell the family house? So many options. We have to decide the smartest course of action. This might even include applying for leave without pay for an extended period of time, depending on how long this lasts. Decide. For me, having a daily routine is so important. Exercise, bit of meditation, decrease all non-essential spending, make sure I access JobKeeper. I'm going to save my leave for later in my circumstances, and I'm also going to start applying for some jobs outside of the flying field. I'd like something to do with advertising or graphic design. Implementing those things, pretty much do my Scrooge McDuck impression, send off a resume, and stay in the moment. Evaluating how all this goes, well, the litmus test for me is going to be that I keep the roof over our heads and that our family stays happy. It's as simple as that for me. The bar's very low and it's very simple. I know that was really clunky and probably not perfectly relevant, but what I'm trying to do is say, if you just systematically step your way through the problem, it becomes a little easier to find the solution. So everyone's circumstances are different. Some people will need to immediately enact those recall items of getting a roof over their heads and making sure they can get food on the table. What I do know is working as a team with your partner will help, and saying things out loud to your partner helps. So don't leave it all on your shoulders. Work together with your family to achieve the good result. And this stuff is stressful. This stuff is really worrying. If you find it all too much, reach out. There are sources for help. As always, you're not alone. Harry's walking down the street and he sees his mate Joe, goes up and goes, "Joe, how's it going?" And Joe says, "Oh, pretty bad week. I lost my job." And Harry says, "Could have been worse, and walks off. Week later, They meet up in a restaurant, and Joe says, "Oh, I've had a terrible, terrible week. The house burnt down yesterday." Harry says, "Could have been worse, could have been worse." And then a couple of weeks later, Harry and Joe happen to pass each other in the gas station, and Joe says, "Well, my wife finally left me." And Harry says, "Could have been worse, could have been worse." And Joe says, "This is rubbish. 3 times you've told me it could have been worse. How could it possibly be worse?" And Harry says, "Well, it could have been me." Yeah, that'll do.